Welcome to More Bang for Her Buck. This is a show about women and money minus the jargon. But I think educating women about money and financial independence and financial empowerment goes a lot beyond just stock prices and opening a joint account, right? Sometimes it's also about the places that we go to earn that money and the blocks that are in our way when we're trying to make our careers grow, and the considerations that we have to make in order to make these choices and build a legacy or build a career or build work that we love. Today on the show, we've got two incredible women, both mums, and we're here to talk about motherhood and mums who work and just what having a baby does to work and career and office. So I want to start by something that I saw on Instagram, and I'm sure both of you saw it as well. It was a comment about how the biological clock and the career clock are at odds with one another. So it's just about when you need to start having your babies and your eggs are in ticking mode is when your career is at a point where you feel like you can't step out of the workplace at this point because you'll be losing so much. And that led me to do a bit of research, and I decided to call one of these IVF clinics. Now, let me give you a bit of a backstory. Through most of my 20s, I held on at least to the belief that your 20s are a time to build your career. Like, let's build a nice career first. Let's have enough money in the bank, and then when there's tons of money, then we'll go on to have babies. But on the other side of 35, I'm calling these IVF clinics and asking out of curiosity, so what does it cost to freeze your eggs? And the numbers that came back to me was 33,000 dirhams for an attempt to freeze your eggs. And every time you attempt a fertilization, that would cost you upward of 16,000 dirhams. This is not including any complications, any further attempts, which, it's often that you have several attempts before you go through this, maternity, health insurance for the baby, and all of the other associated costs with having a baby. So I guess my big question is, did you guys feel any part of this seesaw between the biological clock and the career clock? And how does your story play out, Shraddha?
For me, very similar in the sense of that for me, it wasn't so much about thinking about the money bit because, my husband and I were lucky to meet very young. I met him when I was 19 and we started building together on things. But I always knew and I always wished to have my own business from as long as I was 10 years old. So for me, it was more about having the freedom of time to being able to spend with my kids.
Right.
And it was the fact that I can take a risk easily now when I don't have kids. Because obviously running a business, and I did fail a couple of times before I reached, let's say, my dream, which is white label and a few others that happened after my kids. But failing and having that appetite for risk and all of that, for me, that was the cause why I delayed having kids till I was 30. Plus, I think everyone's upbringing is a bit different.
Yeah.
I grew up in a traditional environment. I never really traveled. Up until when I met my husband, I moved here. Dubai was the first foreign country I ever came to or I ever visited. So it was also, I didn't feel I was mature enough to feel that I was ready to be a mom.
Yeah.
So mentally, I was just not there, even though we got married by 26, but I wasn't there yet.
I must introduce an aspect of Shraddha's life that brought her to the conversation, which is that Shraddha now runs something called Rejoin, which is a movement that helps new mums get back to the workplace or keep a career through their pregnancy or make different
You're that
work choices.
Shraddha. Yes. I love you very much.
Thank you.
And Karish, as an introduction, is on her fourth wonderful pregnancy. And most of the time that I've known Karish, she has been pregnant. But
Me too.
also, you probably recognize her as the breakfast show host on City 1016. So
yes.
Thanks for sharing, Shraddha. But Karish, you had a
different
ulta to me kind of
Very,
story.
very ulta. So we've been colleagues. So you actually have seen, like you said, this journey that I've been on with my late husband and I. We met quite early as well. And I was one of those people, I think I was all my life guided by some kind of an internal maternal instinct. I just always knew that I wanted a family and I wanted like husband and kids and a big home and filled with lots of kids coming in from football, this, that, whatever. I don't know. It was just this
house.
And I you'd be running that and it'd be beautiful. That was something that I always had in my head as a dream. So I guess for me, and career was something that was always also going to happen. It was a taken for granted thing. I come from a working class, middle income group family. So my mom and dad have worked all their lives. So, you just assume that, work's definitely happening.
So should family.
There's no debate or conversation. Family is something that I want to definitely go after, and that's exactly how things played out. So wherein we started work, and I was working in India, and then we moved here, and I started working here. And I think at each time, in fact, at each moment where there was a big shift happening, I've been pregnant. The day my then boss was offering me some kind of a show and a move to something, I found out I was pregnant. And the day something else, 2 years, 3 years later, it was again the same thing. And she would look at me and she would very often go, Karishma, I have such big plans for you.
And you'd be like, I have such big plans for myself.
I have big plans for me too. But the thing is, and I think this is so important, and this is why I love what you're doing. Because in the workplace, it's all about money, and it's all about profits, and, profitability of a person is what matters at the end of the day. But to be able to see a person who is on the family way, and to be able to recognize that is not necessarily something that they are going to be held down by, but instead is going to be fueling them to go the distance, even more. I think that is a rare gift. And to have, I've worked with someone who's had that gift within them, and I thank God for that. Because, the number of women, like we were just discussing, who have ended up with career obstacles because of choosing to have a baby. And then the number of women who looked at that and have decided, I'm not going to have a baby. And then
it's like a game that you feel like you
How do you
never
win
win.
it?
You
How do
can
you
just
win
never
it?
win it.
Yeah.
Actually, that brings me to, this is a conversation that I think we've had several times. What are some of the things that you wish you knew, financially speaking, before a baby entered the scene? What are some of the costs that you wish you knew about, or some things that you were just nobody talks to you about this? Because I think there's this sense of like new life, positivity, yay, congratulations, but nobody wants to tell you like, hey, by the way, please buy this insurance, or you're going to need this.
Get ready to, if you're living in a country like the UAE, to have a stay-at-home nanny. That has a cost. We lived here without parents. So we were just husband, wife, and working. And you're going to bring in a new child into the family. You're going to need a full-time nanny. We had no idea, Malu. I was 25, 26 and only waking up to all of this information then and realizing that, gosh, I'm so underprepared for this kind of, for this. And I want this. It's not like I'm underprepared to be a mother, but just the practicalities of living in a country on your own and needing the kind of help that you do end up needing. So like, for example, we needed to move into a 2-bedroom house, so our rent went up instantly, then having to sponsor somebody, so those costs went up. I'm not even counting diapers, and I'm not even talking about all that. Your mother will pay for most of the stuff the first time around. But those are the things I remember right now.
Yeah, Shraddha, any things that you wish you had known in terms of money?
I think the amount of paperwork also that you need to do if you have a mixed marriage, as well that the insurance of the child is only for a month covered after birth. So you need to get your child insured ASAP. The moment you deliver, you need to inform your insurance company, because immediately the vaccinations, they start from the first day, right? It's the hardest thing to watch when you're a first-time mom. But stuff like this, you need to have the right insurance in place, because you'll be doing a lot of doctor visits with them constantly with the vaccinations, them falling sick, joining nursery, all of that. So I didn't anticipate that, and I tried to take as much hands me down from friends and circle of friends in terms of clothes and stuff like that.
Actually, that's a great point. What are some things that you wish you hadn't spent money on in the run-up to? Because I also now see a lot of people going through these like extravagant God bharai ceremony, ye ceremony, wo ceremony, baby shower, ye wo. Are there any things that you wish that you had not spent money on, or you felt that like, man, if only I had known this information 6 months ago, I could have saved that money, Yes.
Thankfully, I was very lucky to have two very close friends who had kids just before me, and they were kind enough to say that please don't buy all of this fancy, I don't know, beds and stuff that rocks and things like that. Sometimes, the old-fashioned way is the right
better.
way.
Yeah.
And babies actually don't need, contrary to the fact they say that, oh, babies need so much, but they don't actually need that much.
Yeah.
You can do, it's a lot of time the parents love that overwhelms them and they end up buying a lot of things, but actually, so I never did newborn photography, for example. I have nothing against it, but I was just not in that mindset. I was in so much pain and like getting used to having a child and all of that, and I was like, no, I cannot coordinate a photo shoot right now.
Karish?
Yeah. Gosh, I've forgotten your question, Malu.
What did you wish you had not spent money on in the first couple of pregnancies?
So I had the baby before all of my friends did.
Oh, bless you. So yes.
So I was the guinea pig
that I'm thankful for.
I was the guinea pig that made all the mistakes. But gosh, so much, Malu, so much is not needed. Like, where do I start from? I'll tell you what. The first baby, you will make your mistakes and you'll learn.
Correct.
Then subsequently, you automatically know, okay, I don't need, like you're making friends.
Yeah.
It's exactly like making friends when you're older.
Yeah.
True.
You're like, I don't need all this. I'll find that one person. If I find that one, that's enough for me.
Great.
It's exactly like that. It gets like that after a point where with Emilia, with Isaiah, I realized that, it was enough for us to, first of all, use everything from Isabel.
True.
So the oldest child's, in outfits, everything just got reused.
And they're actually softer also.
They're better this way. Yeah, they're better this way.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk about, okay, your bodies have changed and your spending patterns have changed. But how does your career change? How does the workplace start treating you differently when you're a mum? I think that's an important conversation. We'll come back and have it. More bang for her buck is a really important conversation around women and money. And if you think that you can contribute, and by this I mean if you've got a case study, a story that you'd like us to discuss with our experts, if you've got a bit of research that you think we should include in the show, or there's an opinion that you think we should feature, we would love to hear from you. Do drop us a DM on Instagram, or you can just email us at info@brownontheoutside.com. So on More Bang for Her Buck today, we're talking about women at the workplace, mums at the workplace, and how life changes post-pregnancy and post-delivery. What were the big moments for you where you were like, oh, I'm not being treated the same way I was 3 months ago?
It had started even before I delivered. So I was just sharing the story with you, right? That I am blessed to be on the other side where I'm self-employed. But still, in my case, I lost projects when clients came to know that I was pregnant because, I was like, I have a whole team of people. I'm running a business. It's okay, I can do this. We're like, no, I don't think so. Or I did meetings after I just delivered because, again, for me, I am used to working and I really enjoy my place of work is my place of joy. So it was a great, balance between house and being able to go out. So again, I was out much earlier after giving birth. Within 10 days, I was out and about and happy to do like 1 or 2 meetings here and there. So I would like get this kind of, feedback saying, oh, how small is your baby? Are you okay to be out? And I'm just like, oh, but what? yes, I'm okay. You should be holding your baby. You should be with your baby right now. I was like, thank you. Sure.
I can decide for myself. Yes, thank you very much. What about you, Karish? How did life and work change? I know this also as someone in the limelight. I think there's a lot of additional pressure of looking a certain way, right? And certain timings, which I think, appears in a lot of different people's career graphs. When you're in events, so when you're in the limelight, your work goes on till like 11:30 in the night and you've got to do a show and...
Yeah. And we've done it all. We've been on stage, fully pregnant and, you're fully decked out and you're... I'll tell you the truth, Malu, there is a big part of me that wants to stay home and wants to just rest and wants to take it easy, lay low. The kind of environment that you find yourself working in, because like you said, you love your job. That does not change, you love what you do. As long as you're also surrounded by a team that supports that kind of growth, for you, I think everything is possible. Because the reality is that today I'm pregnant, tomorrow it's going to be you, and I'm going to support you as well. You know, I think where we only take support for ourselves and our own situations, but are refusing to offer it to the next person, is where a lot of this breakdown happens. Because you know, a lot of people in the workplace are women, and they're women who've had kids, and either they've had it rough or they've had it easy. But now what they decide to do with the women in their teams, I'm sorry, I keep hitting the mic. You know, what they decide to do with the women in their teams now is what will decide those women's, you know, journey ahead.
Yeah, I was actually talking about, you know, you actually in an episode before this about, I remember the time when you were very pregnant, but we had to park pretty far away to walk to the office. And I think there are small things that companies can do to make pregnancy a lot easier. For example, feeding rooms, right? Where are you expected to pump breast milk? Like, are you going to really be doing it in a toilet? I promise you, if you ask the CEO or the COO or whoever it was making decisions to take their chai and sip it on the pot, they would flinch. So then why are we expecting to do that to a newborn baby? So what are some of the things that we can ask companies to do to change things around for women? And do they see it as something that they have to do? Do they just see it as an inconvenience and I won't do it until the law really requires me to? Where do we stand on that right now?
Yeah, I mean, you know, going back to your question earlier as well, like in my case, I look after a lot of business development, client facing, etc. So I had to time my meetings between my feeding as well, because I've faced it, unfortunately, where I, being a new mom, did not know how all of that really worked. And I ended up doing a really stupid idea, a full day of meetings in Abu Dhabi, and my breasts got, how do they say? They
Got engorged.
Yeah. And it was very painful. So it's just like, I think a supportive environment more than anything. If you have feeding rooms, great. Like there are places like the Bureau which allow moms to come and work, and they have feeding rooms. They're very understanding towards women, but you need a lot more support and understanding from your employers to say that it's okay for her to go home and feed, or perhaps maybe she just works a couple of hours in the morning and then she takes, or let's say maybe not the day off, but is working from home, or, you know, understanding that your colleague or teammate wants to be there for her child on the first day of school or the sports day or when the child is not feeling well. I think more than the facilities, sometimes I feel it's done for maybe PR purposes. But more than anything, you need that support and understanding from
in a real and meaningful way.
In a real and meaningful way. And I think sometimes not sometimes, I think teams that want to be helpful will find a way to be helpful. But I think what happens with smaller businesses and businesses that are you know, profit or nothing, like what are you bringing to the table? It's very hard to convince them to do this out of the goodwill of their own heart. The problem is that we don't have any legislation around it, right? There is, I mean, or at least I don't know how much legislation we have around it to go to a company and say, look, if you have more than 15 employees or if you have more than X square meters of real estate to your name, then you need to have a feeding room. And are we even in a place where we can start to demand that? Does it make any sense for businesses? Because also as someone who's running a business myself, like now I need to make space for a breastfeeding room. That's a lot to ask because I need every square inch of the space, right?
I think it even starts from the paid maternity leave. That to me, the 45 days honestly is a joke. Like it's very difficult to come back. You're just like forget how much you're sleeping, how you're feeling. That in itself needs a first and foremost change. You need at least, ideally 6 months, at least once you start feeling a little bit of a normalcy within your brain, within your body, with your child, all of that to feel that I feel like coming back. Now running
But who pays the bills for that, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I get you. You know, running businesses myself. So in my case, for example, 6 months is tough. I can't really pay for 6 months. I can't really afford that yet. But we do 3 months, and then we offer the flexibility where they can choose to work hybrid or they can choose to work remotely, or if they want to take unpaid leave for longer, then that's possible as well, offering that the job is still secured and they're welcome to come back if they want to come back after a year. So because also insurance costs are like going crazy. As much as I would love to offer full maternity cover as a small business, it's challenging for me. Like the insurance costs go up as a company, health insurance 20% every year.
Which is where I think it is important to have regulation, because the minute the government steps in, they have the ability to bring these costs down on a business in order to make it possible for more of them to express intent for pregnant women to continue working, or new moms to continue working. So there has to be this sort of hand in glove kind of movement that happens between companies and the government, of course, being at the center of it. It's funny though, because I also find that off late there's a lot of we talked about how women are pushing the time at which they want to have the children, and there's also this kind of outwardly sound noise which is constantly telling women to have their children later. So it's not just your internal decision to do it, it's also what you're hearing from the outside very often is that
I can see why, right? Because it's just bad for the company's profit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally down to the black and white of that. It's going to be terribly inconvenient if 25 members of your team decide to all get pregnant because they're all of a certain age. So I want to come back and I want to talk a little bit more about what we can do for new moms. And what we can do to help them, if not in our own companies and teams, then the women around us, how we can help them get back to work. We'll come back and talk about that. If you're listening to us on Spotify or watching us on YouTube, but you don't follow us on Instagram yet, then please do. All you've got to do is search for More Bang for Her Buck or Brown on the Outside and hit follow. Action. All right, back on More Bang for Her Buck. We're talking about mums at work with these two incredible women who have together now dealt with 6 pregnancies and all.
I've been doing the heavy lifting, Shraddha. Come on.
So we often hear of women working till the very last day of their pregnancy, right? Is this out of fear? And what are some of the fears that women carry when they are, pregnant? Well, a lot of times you feel like I don't want you to think that I'm not serious about this. I don't want you to think that I'm slacking at work, and so you're pushing yourself and putting yourself through so much of extra emotional, physical turmoil. Is that the case, or are we just reading too much into it?
We recruit a lot of women coming back, after their maternity breaks, etc. And often the first few times that they don't know us, they'll be like, oh, sorry, you might hear my child in the background, or sorry, I'm working from home, or it's the bath time, or it's sick and I'll be late today. There's a lot of sorries and apologizing and all of that you hear in the beginning until they know, because they feel that maybe I'm going to get judged by my boss for doing that. But I think that in itself, should change. You shouldn't feel like that. It is normal. You're a mother, that's probably the most important job that you have than anything else. So it's totally fine to feel, right?
Fears that pregnant women carry?
I mean, it's not a fear as much that I've experienced, I think, but I completely relate to what you've said, which is just feeling like it's all my bad. Everything.
Unprofessional.
I'm sorry, my bad. I made this mistake, I made that mistake. I think there's just that constant little bit, you feel judged a lot more. You feel, look, I have been judged for my appearance. The fact that you put on 20-25 kilos and it stays, and then your body stays disfigured for a while, through the time that you're nursing, till your body bounces back, and then suddenly those same people look at you completely differently. I've seen those changes, and I think early on in my life when I experienced that, I realized that this is something I'm never going to go after. That door of wanting people to look at me a certain way was closed very early on in life. And I think from that point on, you start to see even, just an offhand example, you're meant to go to work, you don't show up for that day for some reason, and then something goes wrong in what you were responsible for, but you could not in that situation have done anything about it. But you are never given that kind of room to, if I was told at that point that, it's absolutely okay, we understand, it happens, we'll just put a system in place for this to not happen again. Versus, you really ought to like,
Pull
what
your
is
socks
what is
up.
this? I'm giving you the day off, right?
Yeah.
You know, can't you just figure the rest of it out at least?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very different. And so you end up more often with the criticisms of everything that you were responsible for not having gone off well in your absence. And so you end up with this, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It doesn't come from a place of fear. I think a lot of times, Malu, it just comes from having integrity, because your
True.
intention was not to cause damage.
Yeah.
You didn't wake up and plot damage to your business that day.
Yeah.
But it slipped through.
It just happened.
People say
When-
baby brain as well.
Yeah.
Often when you're pregnant. That,
Yeah.
oh, like this is maybe the baby brain. But yes, it is the truth. Like you have that fatigue that is very hard to explain to
And it's
someone.
very real,
else.
right?
It's
very real.
real.
I wonder if from all of the mums that you meet who are trying to rejoin the workforce, do you feel like having a pregnancy is basically saying no to 2 years worth of raises? Because there's the year, there's the 9 months of your actual pregnancy, and then there's the year after that. Do you see that a lot of companies kind of hold back on any sort of raise or any sort of promotion for those years of the pregnancy and the baby?
Unfortunately, yes, because again, there is that understanding of, oh, this person is not going to be available now that she's had a child. And it's something we are very consciously, trying to normalize those conversations. We consult with a lot of family offices, which are very senior men. And so we actively say that, oh, I need to step out for a school pickup, or I need to step out for so-and-so. For this day, I won't be available because I have an important parents-teacher meeting. And they need to understand that, but that's not affecting my productivity at all. I think, in fact, working mothers have the least time to waste. They come into work, they want to get their job done and go back home. So in fact, it's the other way around. Not to say that obviously, being a woman, I would never say that other women who don't have kids are not as productive. But it's just that really working mothers come in,
Get stuff done.
So in fact, they're a lot more productive, I would say, after
Actually,
being a mother.
That's the question I wanted to ask. Statistically, do you guys, in your research for Rejoin, and in all of the women that you speak to, find that women post having a baby actually contribute to profits? Because at the end of the day, let's look at this as a purely black and white numbers exercise.
Sure.
Do you find that mums are able to contribute to the company's profits as much as or more than non-moms?
100%. In my case, the leadership positions that I have filled are moms. Now, they are there with our company because they have a supportive environment. And for me to be able to afford someone of their caliber would have been a lot more difficult. But the fact that, they have that integrity and understanding that, yes, I'm getting a lot of support here and I want to stay here, and they've really propelled my business. I've gotten a lot of new clients. They look after my business as if it's their own. And that's, that's the kind of, it's a great feeling to have.
Yeah, Karish,
Can I just say that I have seen both. I've seen super mums, just bringing everything to work, and I've seen mums who've quite quit quite loudly, just showing up at work to open their laptop, watch some daily soaps, and go back. I've seen both, and I think largely, what we're living in is a time that lacks empathy. And, that person who's quiet quit has also quiet quit for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
And the person who was, who was bringing in everything they've got was also at the end of the day not valued. I've seen it both sides of this, and I feel like the day we start coming to work with empathy and with a, very real approach to people, because they're also people.
Humans.
Yeah, everyone's going through something or the other, and it doesn't mean that should affect you. You don't shut shop. But where you can create room for someone to take their time and come back stronger, do that. It doesn't, it'll cost you in the short term, but the payback in the long term, the kind of loyalty that you're going to get back from people who you have valued is remarkable. And there is no amount of PR you can do to buy people's loyalty and to buy their hearts for you. Because once I really truly give my heart to a project, that's it. I'm going to see it through.
All the way through. That's true. I've seen it happen with mums in my workplace too, and I can 100% agree. So I think to sort of wrap things up, number one, it's, this whole conversation about the biological and career clock is not made up. It's very, very real, and it is built in such a way to make you feel like you can never win the game. You can't win the game if you get pregnant in your 20s. You can't win the game if you want to get pregnant in your 30s. The whole system is designed in many ways to make you feel like you're constantly failing. But thankfully, there are some nice bosses and work opportunities and organizations like Rejoin out there that can create opportunities for moms, that can create opportunities for new moms to get back to work and do it with some degree of empathy and kindness. So if you guys have any questions, any comments at all, please leave it here. Do share this conversation with mums who you know were at the workplace. And yeah, get back to us, talk to us. The show is produced by Brown on the Outside. It's more bang for her buck. Like, share, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. More bang for her buck is a really important conversation around women and money. And if you think that you can contribute, and by this I mean if you've got a case study, a story that you'd like us to discuss with our experts, if you've got a bit of research that you think we should include in the show, or there's an opinion that you think we should feature, we would love to hear from you. Do drop us a DM on Instagram, or you can just email us at info@brownontheoutside.com. So if you're a new mom, if you're pregnant, then finding a job is not easy at all, right? But your company has found some interesting statistics and...
Yeah, like we've seen obviously 85% women quit within the first 3 years. Which
85?
That's staggering.
Yes, and this is after becoming a mother is what like Ash and I both, we realize on a personal level that we are so blessed being self-employed, and we really want to make sure that other women have the same opportunities, because the job portals, even the recruitment side is not supporting women who are taking career breaks.
Tell us a bit more about that.
The way the algorithm is shaped for most, and obviously the technology is getting smarter and smarter, but not as kinder as we hope it to. They automatically bump down the CVs that show a huge career gap or a career gap of any sort.
So if you've got 100 applicants for a job, and say even 5 of them are new mums or show a career break because of a child, which happens often in the UAE simply because of childcare costs, because your 2,500 dirhams of yours is just going to go paying for a nanny and visa, and you're away from your family. That means you're definitely on the bottom of what that HR manager is seeing, and it has nothing to do with you.
Never see it. They'll most likely never see that CV.
And you know, the consequence of something like that is most likely that when this group wants to get back, they're going to be offered very little money. Because you are basically at the bottom of the barrel.
And after enough number of rejections, you'll just feel like, now I'll take whatever I'll get.
This is the feedback we're getting. We're getting no calls. Most of the times the recruiter also is saying that, oh, why this gap and how long and etc. So they're just not being seen or not being heard.
But you know, more and more, Malu, I've seen that women right now are doing exactly what Shraddha is doing, which is they are taking it in their own hands to start their own businesses or to do it their own way.
But it's not ideal. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I say that, like, it is definitely, and you're at that stage where you've just had a baby.
You don't want to start a business on a rebound of a baby. No, that is about the worst decision you can make.
So we shouldn't be pushing women as well. This is your last resort.
So women are just pushing.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. This show is produced by Brown on the Outside. A thank you to our production team, The Dark Room, our producer, Sarah Anand, research and intern, Hiral Verma, and on hair and makeup, Neha.